into that next stage of cellulosic.
Stephanie?
Well, one of the reasons I think we really are only maybe 2 or 3, at the most 5 years away, is that the leadership is in place. The leadership is there. I know that House leadership, in a bipartisan way, but particularly out of Speaker Pelosi's office and her agenda over the last 3 years, has been all about cellulosic ethanol. And I think that the bipartisan support I know that it has in the Senate, as well as what we know is support out of the Obama administration, means that we no longer have an issue of leadership and kind of buy-in to the importance of cellulosic ethanol to our energy independence goals. I also think, as Senator Grassley mentioned, we have the support based on that leadership starting to play out with the government grants, whether it was through the DOE and the grant that POET received, as well as others, to do the research, to do the demonstration plants, to hone the technology, to move to commercial development production of advanced biofuels. The challenges that continue to remain that we have to get over deal both with the market and some fine-tuning of the policy. And I'm confident that we can get over them, in part because of what Senator Klobuchar was saying with the national security goals, the environmental goals, the economic goals, and the energy goals all coming into play in support of advanced biofuels. And that is, if we're already hitting a blend wall and we're only blending 10% ethanol and gasoline, and in California we don't even get to 10%, if we're already hitting a blend wall with our existing corn ethanol production, where's the market going to be for cellulosic ethanol? That's why we have to get to E15, and we have to get more distribution of E85 across the country. And the other policy challenge that we have, that I hope that we can solve based on a problem that we had in the Energy Bill of 2007, and we have to work with environmental groups who, again, I think have some misunderstanding of what we're talking about, or are looking at this in a way that's based on old facts, old studies, is the issue of biomass that I mentioned in my opening remarks. We currently have at least 3 different working definitions of biomass. And for those of you in western states or other states that are heavily wooded and forested, whether it's private forestry land, whether it's national forestry land, states and tribes are already doing some things. They don't have the same restrictions on the federal land that we faced. But there is a definition included in the 11th hour in the 2007 Energy Bill that didn't allow any biomass that came off federal forests as a result of existing forest management activities to be counted toward the renewable fuel standard. It imposed all of these restrictions on private forestry and private land. They make no sense. And if we're going to take full advantage in an environmentally sound way, backed up by the science, to get to our cellulosic ethanol potential, we have to deal with some of these policy issues that have haunted us over the last year and a half.
Great. Thank you. You know, someone told me recently the best way to address the blend wall for ethanol is really to turn it around. It's a mandatory, a mandate that the federal government require you to burn 90% gasoline imported from foreign oil. So maybe we want to switch this rhetoric around. The next 3 questions regarding renewable electricity standard and transmission of wind, which is very expensive to get it from the windy places to where the people live. And the third component of that is the federal energy tax credit for wind projects is available for offset passive income from large corporations who become equity partners in a project. We need to have this credit available to all taxpayers who want to invest and build wind projects for the benefit of rural communities. Do you all want to comment on transmission, a renewable electricity standard, and the income tax breaks to ordinary folks?
It's easier for me to tell you what I support as opposed to what might happen. We're up against a wall that, because we don't have a national grid, that takes us, is going to keep us from making full benefit of the potential of wind energy. So we've got to get that solved. There are people both in the public and private sector working on that. I've seen maps of people that are trying to put together a private sector grid for the 7 states of the upper Midwest as one example of how far advanced that is. There is money in the stimulus package for that as well. On the renewable portfolio standards, I support that and was one of maybe just a half a dozen members of my party that supported that. It was probably easy for me to support it because I think the utilities of Iowa, as well as the RECs, are pretty comfortable with what we're doing because we're a little bit ahead in that area. But it is a tough issue, though, because parts of the country that are so dependent upon coal, if you don't do it right, you can make some parts of the country uncompetitive compared to other parts of the country. And particularly with RECs, both for this issue as well as the global warming issue, where you get 85% of your electricity generated by coal, and we're too egregious in those areas, but my 2 colleagues here have spoken to that point, so they understand it as well as I do on this issue. But that's something that's going to be very difficult for us to fight for rural America to make sure that we're not harmed economically on those 2 issues. And then the third one was which one?
The third one was on the passive income tax for building.
For the small wind.
Oh, well, I support that as well. If we'd started out that way, though, we probably wouldn't have the wind energy projects that we have. But now that we do have them and that they're in place and that there's a grid and we have FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, having a policy on people being paid for surplus that they produce to go online, you know, we're all set up to do more of that.
Sure. Thank you.
Very good. Well, like Iowa, Minnesota has been aggressive about renewable energy standards. In fact, we have one of the most aggressive in the country. Minnesota has 25% renewable by 2025, with 30% for Xcel, and our energy companies actually agreed to this standard, and I think that's why we've moved up the charts with wind. We're 4th in the country when it comes to wind. And so I do support doing something like this nationally. I think we're going to have to be careful, for instance, that we include things like waste to energy and some of the other things that would benefit the rural areas. I also think that we have to make sure that this ET revolution, energy technology, is a little different than the IT revolution, information technology. When you think back to that revolution, it helped more specific parts of the country, like Northern California. And it also more involved people that had degrees, graduate degrees and PhDs. I think the advantage of this energy technology revolution, whether it's wind or solar, whatever it is, if we do this right, one, it's going to be spread across the country. It won't be benefiting just one geographic area. And the second thing is that it involves manufacturing jobs as well in our rural communities. There's a wind tower factory in Porter, Minnesota, that they literally have the towers coming out of barns. Iowa has done a lot in terms of incentives for manufacturing. So that's something to watch here. We are going to need more transmission lines, and I hope we're pragmatic about those transmission lines so we understand that they're not just going to be wind energy, that they include other forms of energy as well. We're going to have to be smart about the development of clean coal technology and other things. The last stimulus bill included a significant sum of money for clean coal technology, that will be a piece of this as well. And then finally, the question on of small wind, I think we have to develop that as well. I agree with Senator Grassley. It's got to be a combination of both the bigger wind farms and small wind, small solar. One of the telephone companies in northern Minnesota, very rural area, got sick and tired of there were electricity breakdowns for their customers. It was dangerous. They were ill, so they actually developed a little small wind solar package that they're selling and doing well with to some of their customers so that they have a backup generator. And they told me a story of one guy. He said he wanted to outfit his whole home with these wind turbines and panels. They said, sure, you know, we'll do it for you, but it's going to take 10 years to get back your investment, but it's a good thing. And they said, but sir, we don't know if you want to do it. You know, you're 85 years old. And he goes, I want to go green. But anyway, the point of this is that we have to have those incentives in place so that not all this money that comes out of this